0200 hours. High altitude above the Taiwan Strait. The cavernous hold of the heavy transport plane vibrates with the low, grinding drone of 4 massive turboprop engines. Red tactical lights bathe the interior in a bloody dim glow, casting long shadows across rows of seated paratroopers. The air inside is cold, smelling of aviation fuel, nervous sweat, and the sharp tang of ozone. Soldiers check their harnesses one last time, their knuckles white against the dark webbing of their gear. The jumpmaster stands by the open side door, the wind whipping his face as he peers into the abyss below. Tracers begin to streak upwards from the dark coastline, like angry fireflies seeking a target. The plane lurches violently as flak bursts blossom in the distance. The pilot banks hard to the left. The distinct rattling of shrapnel peppering the fuselage echoes through the hold. The red light flickers and dies. The green light burns bright. Go, go, go! The jumpmaster screams over the roar of the wind. Paratroopers shuffle forward, the static line hooks clinking rhythmically against the cable. They hurl themselves out of the door, one by one, vanishing into the black slipstream. Gravity takes hold. The static lines snap tight. Canopies deploy with a thunderous crack, jerking the soldiers upright in the freezing air. Outside, the sky tears apart. Heavy anti-aircraft guns on the ground erupt with deafening rhythm, sowing the night with lines of glowing death. A heavy transport plane to the port side takes a direct hit to the wing. Fire engulfs the engine nacelle instantly. The metal skin peels back like wet cardboard. The wing snaps under the stress. The massive aircraft spirals downward, trailing a long plume of thick black smoke and flame. It rotates uncontrollably. Burning debris rains onto the descending soldiers below. A young paratrooper pulls his risers hard to the right to avoid the falling wreckage. A tracer round slices through the fabric of his main canopy. He swings wildly in the turbulent air. Below, the airport runway lights remain dark, but the muzzle flashes from the ground illuminate the kill zone. Another transport plane roars overhead, dropping flares that burn magnesium white against the darkness to distract the heat-seeking missiles. The leading aircraft opens its rear ramp while still banking. Equipment pallets slide out, dragging cargo parachutes behind them. An armored vehicle rigged for the drop plummets toward the earth, its suspension compressed on the pallet. The first wave of soldiers rushes toward the ground at dangerous speeds. They brace for impact. Boots slam into the wet grass and hard tarmac near the runway perimeter. They roll, hit the release buckles, and cut away the silk. A soldier lands badly, his leg snapping with a sickening crunch. He drags himself behind a drainage ditch. The sky above is a chaotic mix of burning planes and falling men. The invasion force is down, but they are scattered, and the enemy knows they are here. Only 2:15 hours. Runway 05 left, Taipei International Airport. The roar of the receding transport planes fades into a dull rumble behind the heavy cloud layer. Discarded parachutes litter the vast expanse of concrete like deflated jellyfish. Smoke from the burning crash site to the west drifts across the runway, stinging the eyes and throat. Soldiers cut the last of their rigging and struggle to their feet under the weight of heavy rucksacks. The air is thick with the smell of burnt rubber and impending violence. A high-pitched mechanical whine cuts through the darkness. High atop the main terminal building, massive floodlights flicker to life. Beams of blinding white light sweep across the open tarmac. They move fast, hunting. One beam catches a cluster of paratroopers, regrouping near a navigation marker. The light stops. It locks on. Instantly, the glass facade of the terminal erupts. Muzzle flashes sparkle like strobes from the upper levels. Heavy machine gun fire hammers the runway. The concrete explodes. Supersonic cracks snap past the soldiers' ears. Rounds the size of fingers smash into the tarmac, sending razor-sharp fragments of stone spraying into the air. The squad in the spotlight dives. Bullets stitch a line across the legs of a radio operator. He collapses, dragging his equipment down with him. His blood sprays dark and glossy onto the white runway markings. "Move! Get off the X!" a sergeant roars. Soldiers scramble on hands and knees, their boots slipping on the slick surface. The heavy rounds chew up the ground, chasing them. A luggage tug sits abandoned 50 meters away. It offers the only cover in the open kill zone. 2 riflemen sprint for it. A burst of fire catches the engine block of the tug. Sparks shower down. The soldiers slide behind the steel wheels, pressing their bodies into the asphalt. From the terminal, a rocket launcher fires. The projectile screams across the gap, leaving a smoke trail. It impacts the runway 10 meters from the main group. The blast wave knocks 3 men flat. Shrapnel tears through rucksacks and uniforms. The sergeant pulls a smoke grenade from his vest. He rips the pin and hurls it forward. Thick gray smoke billows out, creating a thin wall against the blinding searchlights. He keys his radio. "Suppressing fire, now!" Behind the luggage tug, the 2 riflemen mount their light machine guns on the rusted metal hood. They open fire. Red tracers arc back toward the terminal, shattering the plate glass windows. The enemy gunner pauses. The heavy fire from the building slackens for a second. It is enough. The sergeant waves his arm forward. The paratroopers rise from the prone position and sprint through the smoke, dashing toward the cover of the concrete blast barriers near the taxiway. They dive behind the reinforced walls just as the enemy machine gun roars back to life, chipping away the top of their cover. They are alive, but they are pinned. 0230 hours, taxiway Bravo, North Apron. The deafening roar of the initial drop settles into a sporadic, terrifying rhythm of gunfire. Soldiers crouch low behind concrete blast deflectors and overturned baggage carts. Rain begins to fall, mixing with the soot on their faces. The wet tarmac reflects the orange glow of burning debris in the distance. Medics work in the shadows, tightening tourniquets and packing wounds with gauze. The air smells of wet ozone and copper. A deep guttural rumble vibrates through the ground. It is felt before it is heard. The water in the puddles ripples. To the north, the massive corrugated steel doors of the maintenance hangar slide open. 2 enemy armored vehicles surge out of the darkness. Their tracks scream against the pavement, chewing up the asphalt. The turrets spin rapidly, scanning for targets. The lead vehicle locks onto the US position. Its 30mm autocannon unleashes a torrent of high-explosive rounds. The concrete barrier protecting the lead squad disintegrates. Chunks of cement fly like shrapnel, pinging off helmets and body armor. A soldier is thrown backward by the concussion, his gear scattering across the wet ground. The heavy rounds tear through the thin metal of the luggage carts behind them, shredding the aluminum frames. Sparks shower the huddled men. The noise is overwhelming. A constant, hammering thunder that shakes the chest. "Anti-tank! Up! Up!" a squad leader screams over the din. A heavy weapons gunner slides across the wet tarmac. He jams his shoulder against the crumbling concrete wall. He hoists a disposable anti-tank launcher to his shoulder. He extends the tube. The sights align with the glowing heat signature of the lead vehicle's engine block. He exhales. The rocket erupts from the tube with a sharp hiss. It streaks across the taxiway, leaving a white smoke trail. It slams into the side armor of the advancing vehicle. The explosion is blinding. A shaped charge punches through the steel hull. Molten copper jets inside the crew compartment. The ammunition inside cooks off instantly. The blast blows the heavy turret clean off the chassis. It crashes onto the runway with a metallic clang. A column of fire shoots 20 feet into the air, turning the night into day. The burning wreck slews sideways, its tracks locked. The second armored vehicle brakes hard, popping smoke canisters to obscure its retreat. 0300 hours. Terminal 2 approach. South Apron. The burning hull of the destroyed armored vehicle crackles in the rain, casting long dancing shadows against the terminal facade. The downpour intensifies, drumming loudly on helmets and the aluminum wings of parked airliners. Steam rises from the hot gun barrels of the paratroopers waiting behind the blast walls. The massive glass frontage of Terminal 2 looms ahead, dark and foreboding. A combat engineer sergeant taps the shoulder of the platoon commandant. He points to the main sliding doors, 50 meters across open ground. The commander nods and raises a clenched fist. "Smoke out!" 3 grenade launchers thump in unison. Canisters arc through the air and land on the wet pavement in front of the terminal. Thick, white phosphorus smoke hisses and billows, rapidly expanding into a dense wall of gray fog. "Move! Move!" The assault team breaks cover. They sprint across the slick tarmac, boots splashing in the gathered water. They stay low, moving fast. From the upper mezzanine windows, enemy muzzle flashes sparkle through the smoke. Bullets snap past the running soldiers. One round strikes a rifleman in the shoulder plate, spinning him around. He falls hard, but scrambles back to his feet, adrenaline overriding the impact. The engineers reach the overhang of the terminal entrance. They slam their backs against the brick pillars. The smoke swirls around them. 2 engineers rush forward to the reinforced glass doors. They slap rectangular breaching charges directly onto the thick panes. They peel the safety tape and prime the detonators. "Fire in the hole!" They dive behind the pillars. The charges detonate. The blast is sharp and concussive. The reinforced glass does not just break. It vaporizes. A shockwave ripples through the smoke. Thousands of razor-sharp shards spray inward into the terminal lobby like a shotgun blast. The heavy steel frame of the automatic doors twists and collapses inward. "Go! Go!" The point man pulls the pin on a flashbang and hurls it through the gaping hole. A blinding white flash illuminates the interior, followed instantly by a deafening bang. The assault team flows through the breach. They step over the twisted metal and crunching glass. Inside, the air is filled with dust and the high-pitched ringing of the explosion. Enemy security forces, stunned by the blast, stumble near the check-in counters. The paratroopers do not hesitate. Their assault rifles bark in short, controlled bursts. 2 enemy combatants crumple to the polished marble floor. The U.S. force fans out, taking cover behind the ticket kiosks. The lobby is breached. 0330 hours. Main check-in hall, Terminal 2. The vast atrium is a hazy cavern of floating drywall dust and smoke. Red emergency strobes pulse rhythmically, casting disorienting shadows against the high ceiling. The polished floor is slick with water from triggered sprinkler systems. Paratroopers press tight against the luggage scales and conveyor belts behind the check-in counters. The silence is heavy, broken only by the dripping of water and the metallic click of magazines being reloaded. A muzzle flash sparks from the darkness of the second-floor mezzanine. Automatic fire rains down into the lobby. The rounds impact the granite countertop of check-in desk 4, turning the stone into gravel. A paratrooper tucks his head low as bullets shred the LCD monitor above him. Plastic and glass spray across his helmet. The noise is deafening in the enclosed space, echoing off the hard surfaces like a hammer inside a steel drum. "Contact front! High ground!" 3 more enemy gunmen emerge on the balcony railing. They pour fire into the U.S. positions. Bullets strike the massive marble support pillars. Fist-sized chunks of stone explode outward, dusting the soldiers below in white powder. A heavy round punches through a travel advertisement, blowing the light box apart in a shower of sparks. A U.S. machine gunner swings his weapon onto the counter. He braces the bipod on a pile of luggage. He squeezes the trigger. The weapon roars, sending a stream of tracers upward. The bullets chew through the glass balustrade of the mezzanine. The glass shatters in a cascading waterfall of shards. The enemy gunmen duck, pinned by the suppressive fire. "Grenadier, clear that ledge!" the squad leader yells. A soldier rolls out from behind a concrete planter. He aims his underslung grenade launcher at the ceiling above the balcony. He fires. The 40mm round thumps against the plaster ceiling and detonates downward. The explosion is contained and violent. The blast wave slams the enemy soldiers against the back wall. One gunman is hurled forward over the railing. He falls 20 feet, crashing through a glass display case in the duty-free shop below. His body hits the floor with a wet thud and does not move. The firing from the mezzanine stops instantly.
Move up! Flank right!
The squad rises and surges forward, boots crunching on the sea of broken glass. 0400 hours. Baggage handling level. Sub-basement. The air in the service tunnels is stagnant, heavy with the smell of hydraulic fluid and stale rubber. Miles of motionless conveyor belts weave through the concrete darkness like dormant black snakes. Dim yellow service lights cage the bulbs, casting long, crisscrossing shadows against the low ceiling. A U.S. fire team moves single file along the metal catwalk, their boots stepping carefully on the steel grating. The silence here is mechanical. The distant battle above sounds like a muffled drumbeat. The point man freezes. He raises a fist. 10 meters ahead, a shadow detaches itself from a stack of cargo pallets. A submachine gun flashes in the gloom. The noise in the confined tunnel is immediate and deafening. Bullets spark violently off the steel rollers of the conveyor belt. Ricochets whine through the air, striking the concrete walls and the soldier's body armor. The lead soldier takes a round to his chest plate. The impact knocks the wind out of him, driving him backward onto the metal grating.
Contact front! Tunnel!
The team drops to one knee. There is no room to flank. The tunnel is a fatal funnel. They return fire, blindly spraying the area ahead. Their muzzle flashes light up the cramped space like a strobe light, revealing pipes, wires, and the enemy gunman ducking behind a heavy sorting machine. A second enemy fighter pops up from a maintenance alcove on the left. He fires a shotgun. The buckshot shreds a hydraulic line overhead. High-pressure oil sprays out, coating the floor and the soldiers in slick, hot fluid.
Frag out!
A corporal pulls the pin on a grenade. He cooks it for 2 seconds. He bowls it under the conveyor belt. The metal sphere rolls along the concrete floor, clinking against the supports. It stops near the alcove. The explosion is massive in the tight space. The overpressure wave punches the air from the soldier's lungs. Dust and debris blast outward from the alcove. The yellow service lights shatter, plunging the section into total darkness.
Lights up!
Weapon lights click on, cutting white beams through the swirling dust. The team surges forward, sliding on the oil-slicked floor. They clear the alcove. The enemy fighters lie motionless among twisted metal and torn insulation. The path to the control tower elevator is open. 0430 hours. Stairwell. Air traffic control tower. The air in the narrow concrete shaft is hot and smells of stale sweat and dust. The specialized assault team trudges up the final flight of stairs. Their chests heave against their plate carriers. Equipment rattles softly with every heavy step. They have climbed 20 stories in full gear. The point man reaches the top landing and raises a hand. The column halts. A heavy steel blast door blocks the entrance to the observation deck. The handle is welded shut. Muffled voices shout from the other side. The point man signals the breacher. A soldier steps forward, unspooling a flexible linear charge. He presses the adhesive explosive strip along the door frame and the heavy hinges. He inserts a blasting cap into the clay-like material. He grabs the team leader's shoulder and nods. The team retreats down half a flight of stairs, pressing their bodies against the concrete wall, opening their mouths to equalize the pressure. Fire in the hole. The breacher squeezes the clacker. The detonation is sharp and brutal. The overpressure wave slams through the stairwell, shaking dust from the walls. The heavy steel door is ripped violently from its frame. It flies inward, crashing onto the floor of the control room with a massive metallic clang. Smoke pours into the stairwell. Go! Go! The point man hurls a flashbang through the smoking doorway. A blinding white light pulses, followed by a thunderous bang. The team surges through the smoke. Inside the glass-walled observation deck, chaos erupts. Enemy soldiers, blinded and deafened, scramble behind the radar consoles. They fire their weapons wildly. Bullets spark off the metal ceiling panels. One round smashes a computer monitor, spraying plastic and glass across the room. The U.S. assault team fans out in a disciplined line. They fire controlled double taps. The lead enemy soldier takes 2 rounds to the chest and collapses over a flight strip printer. Another enemy rises to throw a grenade. A US marksman tracks him. A single shot hits the enemy in the shoulder. He drops the grenade. It rolls under a desk. Frag! The soldiers dive. The grenade detonates. The blast shreds the fiberglass desk. The shockwave blows out the massive panoramic windows of the tower. Thousands of shards of reinforced glass explode outward into the night sky, falling 200 feet to the tarmac below like shimmering rain. Wind rushes into the exposed room, whipping papers and maps into a vortex. The firing stops. The room is silent except for the howling wind. 0500 hours. Highway 4, access road. Airport perimeter. The sky begins to turn a bruised purple as dawn approaches. A thick mist clings to the highway overpass, dampening the sound of the wind. US paratroopers lie prone behind a makeshift barricade of overturned police cars and concrete jersey barriers. They watch the road leading north. The air is cold. A coffee cup sits on the hood of a crushed taxi, vibrating slightly. The vibration grows. The coffee cup slides off the hood and shatters on the pavement. A deep mechanical grinding noise echoes from the fog. Headlights cut through the mist. Armor! North Road! A lookout screams. 3 enemy battle tanks emerge from the gray haze, moving in a wedge formation. Their diesel engines roar, spewing black smoke. They crush the highway median railing under their tracks. The lead tank traverses its turret. The main gun fires. The muzzle blast kicks up a massive cloud of dust. The shell impacts the US barricade. The police car vaporizes in a ball of fire and twisted metal. 2 paratroopers are thrown backward by the concussion, rolling into the ditch. Suppressing fire! US machine gunners open up. The rounds spark uselessly off the thick frontal armor of the tanks. The tanks advance, their coaxial machine guns sweeping the road. Bullets chew through the sandbags, forcing the infantry heads down. The ground shakes violently as 50 tons of steel accelerates toward the line. A Joint Terminal Attack Controller, JTAC, lies in the mud behind a barrier. He screams into his radio handset. Danger close! Cleared hot! Now! From the south, a low thumping sound beats against the air. It grows louder, fast. An attack helicopter rises suddenly from behind the airport terminal building. It dips its nose. The weapons pylons light up. 2 anti-tank missiles streak out, trailing white smoke. They close the distance in seconds. The first missile slams into the top armor of the lead tank. The explosion is catastrophic. The ammunition carousel ignites. The massive turret is ripped from the hull and hurled into the air, spinning like a coin before crashing down on the asphalt. The second missile strikes the engine deck of the trailing tank. Fire engulfs the rear of the vehicle. It slews to a halt, burning fiercely. The attack helicopter roars overhead, its chain gun tearing up the asphalt around the retreating third tank. The rounds stitch a line of destruction, detonating against the pavement. The enemy advance collapses into a burning ruin of steel and smoke. 0530 hours. Runway 05 right. Taipei International Airport. The gray light of dawn bleeds through the smoke-filled sky, revealing a landscape of cratered concrete and twisted metal. A military bulldozer shoves the burning skeleton of a luggage truck off the center line. Sparks shower from the scraping metal blade. On the grass verges, exhausted paratroopers kneel, watching the southern horizon. The air vibrates. A massive heavy transport plane drops from the low cloud ceiling. It looms over the runway, its wingspan casting a shadow over the battered terminal. The landing gear slams into the concrete. Tires scream as they contact the ground. Blue smoke puffs violently from the rubber. The nose gear smashes down. The pilot engages reverse thrusters. The roar is cataclysmic. The sound wave hits the watching soldiers, shaking the dust from their uniforms. The giant aircraft slows, its engines screaming against the momentum. It does not stop. It taxis aggressively toward the apron, turning its tail toward the taxiway. The rear ramp drops while the aircraft is still rolling. Hydraulics whine. The ramp hits the tarmac with a heavy clang. Inside the dark hold, a turbine engine spools up to a high-pitched shriek. A battle tank surges down the ramp. 70 tons of composite armor and steel crash onto the runway. The suspension compresses under the immense weight. The tank levels out. Its tracks bite into the asphalt, throwing up chunks of stone. Black diesel exhaust spews from the rear grills. The massive turret spins rapidly to the right, the long barrel of the main gun locking onto the perimeter fence. A second battle tank follows immediately, roaring down the ramp and peeling off to the left.
Heavy armor on deck! Spread out!
Infantry squads rise from their fighting holes. They form up behind the steel giants. The lead tank accelerates. The ground trembles rhythmically under the treads. It smashes through a chain-link fence, flattening the metal poles like matchsticks. The tank stops on a rise overlooking the highway, its engine idling with a menacing growl. The airport is no longer just a landing zone. It is a fortress. 0600 hours. Rooftop. Terminal 1. The sun breaks the horizon over the Pacific Ocean, casting a pale golden light across the devastation. Smoke from the burning fuel tanks to the north rises in straight black columns against the clear blue sky. The deafening roar of combat has faded, replaced by the rhythmic, heavy thumping of rotor blades. On the ground below, the wreckage of the night's battle lays exposed like broken bones. Shattered glass glitters on the tarmac. 2 medical helicopters bank sharply over the runway. They flare hard, their noses tipping up to bleed off speed. They settle onto the painted numbers of the evacuation zone. The wheels touch down. Dust and debris swirl violently in the wash.
Clear the zone! Incoming!
Medics on the ground rush forward, crouching low under the spinning blades. They carry litters loaded with the night's casualties. A young soldier, his leg wrapped in thick, bloody pressure bandages, grips the side of the stretcher. His knuckles are white. His face is gray with shock. The medics slide the stretchers into the open cabin of the lead helicopter. The loadmaster grabs the handles and locks them into the floor mounts. He signals a thumbs up to the pilot. The turbine engines whine as they throttle up. The helicopter lifts off, noses down, and accelerates toward the fleet offshore. On the ground, a company commander stands near the shattered remains of the control tower entrance. He wipes soot from his face with a gloved hand. He watches a heavy cargo plane taxi into a parking bay. The ramp drops. Fresh infantry squads run down the metal incline, moving to relieve the exhausted paratroopers on the perimeter. The commander keys his radio. "Command, this is Bravo 6. The package is secure. The airfield is open." Above him, on the railing of the observation deck, a corporal cuts a zip tie. A large American flag unfurls, snapping sharply in the morning wind. It flies over the ruined terminal. The airport is secure.